started, and I want to introduce our next speaker. Mike, are you with us?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, wait. Are you sharing your video as well? Oh, let's see. There you are. Now we see you. Okay, I'm going to stop my share right now so that you can start sharing your screen. And
Okay.
I will use that time in order just to do a brief intro and explain people who we have actually with us today. So Mr. Mike Lyles, I actually have been interacting with him for a while now. He's director of QA and project management at a company called Bridgetree. And Mike, you have over 25 years of IT testing and quality experience in a large number of actually leadership roles. So that's pretty impressive.
Yes.
And no less impressive is actually the new book that you released, I think, not too long ago. The drive-through is not always faster. And I haven't gotten around to reading it. I did go over some comments, and it looks great. It is about stories and experience that will help everyone to be a better leader and accomplish their goals. So I'm looking forward to reading it as well. And again, congratulations on the book, man.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. So Mike today will be sharing his approach and ideas on how can you broaden your testing skills and how to be a better tester. And just a reminder, if you want to ask questions, go ahead into the Q&A session, and hopefully we'll have some time for them a little bit later. So Mike, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Joel. Thank you so much. And thank you to Practice Test for letting me be here today and having me be part of the show. I am really excited today to share with you guys. Testing is not a 9-to-5 job. It is something that I had an idea about a couple of years ago, and I started to putting together some ideas around how do we get better at being testers and continuing to evolve as the world evolves and things change. So Joel's gave a great introduction. I won't share anything other than my social media links at the top. If you go to mikewlyles.com, you can definitely connect with all of my social media sites there. I am narcissistic, so happy to have you join with me. If you follow me, I'll follow you back. If you connect with me, I'll definitely accept it. Would love to meet anyone that's here and get to share some stories. I do have a book, The Drive-Thru is Not Always Faster, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go. It's a theory I have that maps to testing and several other areas in life as well. Now, I mentioned I have a motivational book. So if we started thinking about motivational testers, then certain books out there today would be changed. The 360-degree leader would be the 360-degree tester. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People would be 7 Habits of Highly Effective Testers. Good to Great, one of the great books out there would be Good to Break, I would think. And Start with Why would be Start with Why Not. The 1-Minute Manager would be the 1-Minute Tester. And the great book, Never Wrestle with a Pig, it doesn't need any changes at all. I think we deal with that every day. Now, if we were all together today and we were all in the same room, I would ask you to raise your hand if you love your job. Now, you can raise your hand. I don't know if I can see you, but raise your hand if you love your job. Do you like what you do? And I would go further to ask you in a group setting to raise your hand if you want to get better, because every one of us should have a goal to get better at what we're doing, get better in our job, get better in our lives, and to continue to grow in our careers and our personal lives as well. Which makes me think about Michael Phelps. Now, if you don't know who Michael Phelps is, then I don't know where you've been for the last 10 years. But the one thing I liked about Phelps was he said, I always thought it'd be great to make the Olympic team. All he wanted to do was make the team. All he wanted to do was be with great people and really learn how to swim and learn how to compete in the Olympics with other people. But he got really good at what he did. He won more gold medals than anyone in Olympic history. And we saw him do this only a couple of months. And we saw him do this a few months out of a year when we watched the Olympics on TV. But what we didn't see was the things he did behind the scenes. We didn't see him in the gym every day. We didn't see him working out every day. We didn't see him managing his diet and his regimen so that he could get better. So being great at your job requires that you do some of those extra things that goes above and beyond just the day-to-day task. Now, my dad, he he was a factory worker. I'm gonna close this window. And this is me and my dad and my brother. I don't have those pants anymore, if you're wanting to ask. But my dad worked in a factory for most of his life, and he just retired not too long ago. And he did a great job in the factory, but he didn't go home every day and say, "How am I going to get better at a factory job?" He didn't go home and say, "I need to get to learn this skill or this task." Now he learned things in the office. I mean, at the factory, he got trained on new things, to new tools and new things like that. I'm not saying he didn't study and learn. I commend him on all the work that he did. But we don't live in that same type of career in our role. In our role, we need to continue to evolve, because 30 years ago, 20 years ago, we weren't testing mobile apps. We weren't testing the things that we're testing today. And to stay up to date with what we're doing in the testing world, we have to continue to evolve and to grow. And that requires us to step outside just being a factory worker and doing the 9 to 5. Okay. Now, if I talk about 9 to 5 testers versus world-class testers, and I use world-class, I was trying to think of the word there. I want to say professional, but there's professionals that work 9 to 5 as well. But when you look at 9 to 5, somebody that's just a 9 to 5 tester, I would tell you that they're testing at work and in the office only. And a world-class would be testing everything they see, everywhere you go. I interviewed several months ago now, and I asked them, "What do you do when you're outside of work?" And they said, "I test everything, TVs, cars, everything." And that's what a world-class tester is going to do. 9 to 5 doesn't study testing outside of work, but world-class are doing what you do. They come to online webinars, they study, they attend conferences, they read blogs, they read articles, and they study new things. 9 to 5 is not involved in the testing community, whereas a world-class tester is really talking with the community, learning from others, interacting, and engaging. 9 to 5, their learning is limited just to the work that they do. And we've got great jobs. I'm sure you do. I do too. I love my job. But I love some of the things that I do outside of my job, attending conferences, webinars, events, talking to other people, and getting mentors and peers out there who I can talk with and learn more things. Now, I used to have a saying that says, "You may never know what you're capable of until you surround yourself with other great testers." But in today's world, with Agile, DevOps, the fast sprints, and the speed to market, you have to surround yourself with great people. It's not just within your little circle of testers. You have to be within the organization and learn what people are doing. And one of the things I always say, and I said this in a talk about a month ago, you have to also understand how people see quality, because your definition of quality may not be at all the same as what somebody else sees as quality out there. So you have to understand, what does quality mean to everyone? And it does mean something different. You'll be surprised if you ask people. Now, you may be thinking, "Mike, I'm not a workaholic. I'm not going to work 70 and 80 hours a week." And I'm okay with that. I mean, you should be too. I'm not here to tell you that you need to work a ton of hours. It means focusing on what things you want to do to get better, and what areas you want to grow and become a better tester in your team and your organization. Again, if we were together, I would ask you, did you start your career as a tester? And I would look around the room and find lots of people are not raising their hands. I've heard so many different stories about several people who started out in testing, but then a lot of people who started out doing something else: truck drivers, nurses, psychology majors, which I think is a great task to have, by the way, as a background in psychology, because I think psychology helps us in the world we live in. But it's okay if you don't. I started out in 6th grade getting my computer science certification on an Apple IIe. If you don't know what an Apple IIe is, you're nowhere near my age. But there's so many great testers that have learned from different things. And what I challenge you to do is to learn from those experiences, and to learn from what things you've done. If you were a developer in the past, you were a project manager, whatever role you had, let that help you to work with other people and be a better tester. Now, we've mentioned several times, my book is called The Drive-Thru is Not Always Faster, but it's also a theory that I have. And that is, many times I've sat in the middle of the line, or right in the back of the line, not the middle, and I've watched people go in, get their food, and come out. And I'm still sitting there. And lots of times there's a better way, a more efficient way to do things than just sitting in the line and going by what we used to do and letting things go the way we used to have them go, and things complete for us. Now, I shared my book one time with a drive-through window person at a restaurant, and she said, well, it may not be faster, but it's more efficient. She's absolutely right. And, it's more convenient. I mean, she said it's more convenient. And I said, you're exactly right. It is more convenient, but we don't have the opportunity sometimes to follow just convenience. We have to think about what is the better way to do things. And sometimes it's not the conventional way. Now, thanks to COVID-19, neither my book or that theory is very solid right now, because the drive-thru is the only way for most places, but that's okay. Things change and then they change back. And sometimes we relive them again, and hopefully we'll get to go to a restaurant someday and my theory will be back in play. Now, there are things then, you might say I'm working for a company that says we've always done it this way. I've been there. I've worked for companies that have told me, this is great, Mike. You're bringing some great things back from the conference, but here's how we've done it. We're always going to do it this way. It's okay. Like I said before, you can continue to do things the way your company requires you to do them, but you can also suggest new ways, show new ways, and invite people to look at more creative ways to solve problems than just the way that it's always been done. Worse than that is everybody is doing it the same way, or everybody's doing it this way. Don't do it like everyone else. Some of the greatest and most innovative leaders have thought outside the box and have looked for new and innovative ways to do things. Now, I've said a good way to learn how to deal with something is to listen to those that have already been through it themselves. And that sounds a little contradictory to the last slide that says, think outside the box, don't follow what everybody's saying. But what I mean by that is, lots of times you can learn from what other people have gone through and their experiences. And I want to share with you a few slides of a survey that I did. And I wanted to find out from people, what do you do? How many hours per week do you spend in meetings? And I was very surprised that 49% of the people said they spent more than 5 hours per week in meetings. 21% of those people said they spent more than 10 hours in meetings per week out of their work week. So I then asked them, how many hours do you spend in requirements and project reviews and focusing on the project itself? And that's when a surprising fact came up, that 72% said that they spend 5 hours or less working on the project. What are you spending your other time on? Now, 6 people are spending 20 hours or more. But those were some interesting facts. How much time do you get to plan for testing? How much time do you get to plan with the team to be effective as a tester in your organization? And you really should look for opportunities to help the team not spend as much time in meetings, but spending time really around what is important, what things do we need to know for the project. Now, I asked people, what things do you do outside of work? What kind of things do you study? Do you learn? What kind of things do you do to help grow your experience as a tester? And 87% said they read blogs, which I thought was really good. 55% said social media, 41% said conferences, 42% said training classes, 43% said meetups. This was great. Reading articles was 74%, and crowd testing. I really liked seeing that. A lot of people just go out and volunteer to do crowd testing for other organizations. And 17% said other, which taught me a valuable lesson. Never put other on a survey, because testers especially are going to pick that one. But I did require them to tell me what they're doing if they did pick other. And so I got things like learning development skills, automation skills, watching videos and podcasts on testing, mentoring, face-to-face with other testers at local events, practicing testing on their own self-made exercises, and playing mobile games and working with mobile apps on your own phone. Now, someone said photography, and if you've ever been in a photography course, and I have, it's definitely something you can test because there's so many different ways to take pictures, unless you're just using your phone. That one does it for you. But if you're using an SLR, there are some various ways. Job searching. I was interested in that one because someone said job searching. I go out and I look for jobs, and maybe that's probably a good idea. You know, it helps you learn what other people are looking for in the community and in the industries today. Non-testing books and watching videos. I do drive people crazy if they watch a movie with me, and that movie is taking place in the past. So it's like taking place in the 80s or the 90s, and I start trying to find issues where something's in that movie or that TV show that we know is later than the year that it was showing. And someone said testing the quality of the whiskeys. If you know Mark Tomlinson, he's the one I'm sure that said that. And I would caution that if you test a lot of the whiskeys, you probably are not going to be very effective as a tester afterwards. A lot of people talked about conferences, and we do see that conference numbers are growing through the years. Now, thanks to the virus and the lockdowns, online conferences are really growing. But we see more people going to these. And I think, you know, to Joel's point, this conference has been going on long before the virus, and it grows every year. And it's such a great conference, and it's a great event for you. You don't have to leave your home. You don't have to leave work. You just have to join in. And I think having the online conferences are a great opportunity. There's many others out there. You can join them as well. But I think it's good to continue to listen to what other people are saying and what other people are speaking about, because you can learn a lot from their experience. Blogs and articles. You know, if you're writing a blog today or article today, keep it up. And if you were writing a blog or articles at one time and you've stopped, then start it back, because people are listening, especially now. People have more time. They've watched every Netflix episode they can think of. They watched every bit of Amazon Prime. They're ready for something new. So take advantage of it and make sure that you use that to your advantage, so you can understand, you can write things for people that they can hear your story, and you can read theirs as well. Now, I asked a lot of people in the survey, how do you learn about testing at work? People tried different domains. They looked at new technologies, learning development practices. A lot of people are learning development practices, and I was really happy to see that, because in an agile environment, it's really good for us to know what the developers are doing more than just knowing what we do as a tester. The days of years ago, just learning the functionality and knowing the requirements and not knowing the details of what's under the hood, those days are gone. We need to be able to help the team out. Understanding the business, doing exploratory testing. If your company's asking you to write test cases and execute those cases, then do it. But also step outside the box and do some exploratory testing. Look in areas that you might not have logged in your scripts and your scenarios. Think outside the box. Pair testing, again, especially with the agile and DevOps environments, it's really growing. A lot of people working together. Developers understand what the testers are doing. Testers are understanding what the developers are doing. It's a great way to work together. And if you're saying, hey, I've got too much going on after hours, Mike, after work, I don't have time to go and meet with people and go to meetups or attend events or study online, then start a brown bag lunch at your office. Everybody bring lunch, and bring your own lunch, and meet and talk. Talk about projects, talk about development, talk about testing. Security testing as well as performance testing are really growing. And we've got a lot of opportunity now, especially with the lockdown. A lot of people at home, a lot of opportunities to tighten up security, a lot of opportunities to improve your performance. Those two things are really growing right now. Training junior and entry-level testers. I've always said that coaching someone and mentoring someone has been the best way for me to learn just as much as they do, because I really love learning from people and learning how they learn and working with them. And then someone said making testing fun, and I had to look at it twice to make sure they weren't saying making fun of testing, which sometimes happens, probably to all of us. Now, the one thing people said that if they could change one thing, they'd like to minimize meetings. Now, some meetings we have to have, In the world we live in right now with the lockdown, we're having a lot of crazy meetings online. So it's probably easier, but there's still a lot of meetings that I think we can resolve much more efficiently, maybe not even have a meeting. You need to look for those opportunities in your organization. No test team ever woke up and said, one day it said, we're going to fail, unless you just said, hey, I'm going to fail, we're going to fail. It's going to be bad. But nobody ever plans for that. But I want you to know that as you go through and you're learning new things, if you fail, get back up and keep going, because failure is a part of success. The more you fail, the better chance you got of being successful. Continue to learn. If your team fails, keep going, keep growing. Now, I love this quote by Michael Bolton. He says, as testers, one of our most important jobs is to reveal problems that threaten the value of the product and the on-time successful completion of the project at every level of granularity. Now, did you notice that not once did he say, how many defects did we find? Or how much have we tested? What's the percent complete? He's not as worried about that, and neither should we be. It's part of our job. I ask someone a lot of times in interviews, if I have a project with 500 defects, what can you tell me about that project? And the best answer is, it depends. It depends on the severity. It depends on how big the project is. So you have to think about, and the tester's role is more than just finding defects. Defects is an outcome of what we do, but our job is as investigative reporters. We're there to analyze and understand the product, become familiar with it, and make sure that the end user gets exactly what they've asked for. Now, a lot of people have asked me about certifications, and we don't have enough time to talk about the pros and cons of certifications or non-certifications. But I'll tell you this, my son is 17 now. He got his driver's license last year at 16. And the first ride I took with him out of our development, he looked to the left, he looked to the right, and then he pulled out. He should have looked left again. Now, the car didn't hit us, but there was one coming. Now, all the training he had to be a driver, all the courses he took, the permit that he got, didn't train him to drive in the real world. You can learn a lot. There's a lot of good things to be learned in training courses, certifications. I'm not against it. But the real world is going to show you, how to be a better driver. It's all in the context of where you're driving and what you're doing. And as a tester, you have to think about what you do every day that helps you to understand the product better and to do your job better. And it doesn't matter to me, if you work with me, whether you have certification or not, it's good to have it if it tells me you've learned some of the things about testing. But again, like I said, the license and the permits and the certifications doesn't make you better. It just makes you more learned and knowledgeable about what's going on. Now, if we were together, and I love to do this, and I started to remove this slide, because when I do this talk in person, I ask people to look under their seat, and whoever has the winning number is going to win a prize today. And people start looking. And what always makes me laugh is they trust me. They believe this guy's up there, he's on the stage. We believe that he's really put numbers under our seat. So I'm going to check my number and we'll see if I win. But they believe me because I've established some type of respect with them. And they understand that they can believe in me and they can trust me. And that's what you need to do with your organization and your teams. Your teams need to know that they can trust you, so that when you say, I found something, they're not questioning whether or not it really is the problem. They know that you've done your work and you've done your homework to find out that this is a problem that needs to be addressed. Zig Ziglar is one of my favorite motivational speakers. Before he passed away, he said, we all have 24-hour days. And it's true. None of you on this presentation today that are listening to me today have more hours per day than me, even though I'm sure sometimes you think you're working 40 hours in one day. But we all have the same number of hours every day, 24 hours. Now, 8 of those hours supposed to be for sleeping. Some of us may not take them. 9 of those hours are usually planned for work. And again, some of those may be longer. But then after you take away the sleep and the work, you've got 7 hours at best. And that's not counting how much time you spend driving to work or driving home, back in the old days before the virus. And it's not counting how many things you have to do when you get home and what you have to do with your family or your kids, if you're a parent, or your roommates or your friends. So our time is limited, and you have to make the best of what time you have to do certain things to learn more outside of the job. Now, testers tend to accept things because they feel they don't have the authority. And you need to be comfortable with asking questions. Ask the why, the when, the what, the how. Ask more questions to help you understand the product, understand what's going on with the testing, understand what's going on with the product. Ask the sponsors, the stakeholders, ask them questions to make sure they know what they want. I've asked questions to stakeholders in a previous job. First day on the job, I asked them, why do you want this? They couldn't tell me why. We changed the requirements because I asked a simple question, why do you want this? Nobody remembered why they did. And you don't have to have a management title to be able to ask these questions. Just have an opinion, take a stand, but don't make it personal. People don't agree with you, that's okay. We all have an opportunity to have those opinions. Get out there on social media. Get out there and interact with people. There's so many great things out there. As I said at the start, the MikeWLyles.com. If you go there, I've got several sites. If you connect with me, I can connect you with other people if you don't have a large connection out there. If you do, I'm going to use your connections and connect with you and everybody you know too, because I really love connecting with people on social media. And with the lockdown, I've got to do more of that. And it's been really exciting to do that with people. Twitter, if you're not on Twitter, it's such an easy thing to do. You only get 280 characters, I believe. It used to be 140. But there's so many great conversations. And if you follow me on Twitter, I'll add you to a testing group and a list out there. And there's about 1,865 people in there. I've built it through the years. And every time I see someone that's a tester or a developer that wants to be part of that, I add them to it. And it's a good way to see what other people are saying and what they're talking about. So many people have some great books out there. My book is not necessarily linked to testing, but it does help you, I believe, motivational leadership, life stories. It helps you in your career, I would say. Of course I would say that. But Lisa Crispin, Janet Gregory, love their books on Agile. There's a new book on leading with quality. I think it's Ronald, and I'm so sorry, Ronald, if I can't remember your name right now, full name. But there's so many great books. And I'm asking each of you, if you're in the Slack channel, add some books there in my channel that that you like, that you've read, that you would like to share with people that they might go out and try as well. Because I think sharing that information, learning what other people have learned is a really good way to grow and learn ourselves. I have a link within my WordPress. It's on the WordPress.com on Testopedia. If you go to that link there on the page, and I started building a list of blog sites, and it's outdated. I need to get it updated very soon, but also on the Slack channel, or email me if you've got links that you don't see there that you would like to see, because I'd love to build that up and have a place for people to go to say, I'd like to learn more about testing. Tell me some of the great blogs to go to, some of the great articles to read. If you share those with me, I'll add them to my site. Now, testing all the time. I tell people all the time that nobody wants to go test drive a car with me anymore, because neither anyone in my family nor the guy who at the dealership likes to ride in a car with me when I'm test driving a car, because I test everything. I try the radio, I try the controls, I try the brakes, I try the gas, and I just test everything. I test TVs, I test anywhere I'm at. And I saw on Twitter this week a question. Read this question. When I was 4, my sister was 2. I am now 44. How old is my sister? If you're not on Twitter and you haven't seen this, you may be thinking, well, of course my sister's 42, right? And thanks to Ben Simo, if you're not on Twitter, get on Twitter. If you are on Twitter, follow Quality Frog. He's amazing. He has funny posts and he's fun to follow. But his post this week 30-some thousand retweets and likes and comments. But somebody replied to this and they said, well, that's a tough one. She might be 42, but she could be 41 or 43. Since it doesn't say when your birthday is and her birthday is, also she could be dead. Finally, you might have thought she was your sister, but actually your mom had an affair with another man, and the woman who is 1 to 3 years younger than you is not actually your sister, but your mom may have given away your real sister for adoption, in which case she's probably older than you. As you can see, as a tester, you're probably getting this. Non-testers are thinking, what the heck is going on here? The last sentence there, what if your sister is dead, but you think your sister is dead, but she actually has become an astronaut on a secret government project for near light speed travel? Then your sister would be aging more slowly than you, so she could potentially be even younger than 41. Now, I hope you're laughing right now because I enjoyed this. I want to share a couple of the other ones. Ben goes on to say, what if the numbers are not ages? This is what we do as testers, right? If you're not doing this, then you're not as crazy as me. But I think most of you that are listening to this have thought of these things. What if they're in a queue? What if they're apartment numbers? What if they're bowling scores? What if they're Twitter follower counts? What if the numbers are not even numbers? What if that's their name? What if his name is 4? And don't say that their names can't be weird. Talk to Elon Musk if you want to ask about that. This guy says, are we talking about months or minutes? Or are we talking about maybe they're twins if it's minutes? Are we talking about years, meters, seconds faster in a marathon? You forgot about the user being dead. The sister would be much older. The tester missed the option where you might have 2 sisters. And then someone said, of course, isn't the answer always 42? And one more. I love this because this is where you get some of the project managers and the developers talking in the discussion now. Someone says, let's deploy with 42. Well, think about that in the next iteration. Then this guy says none of these possibilities were mentioned in the COS, so this is all scope creep. Someone said a project manager would then ask the client how old they wanted the sister to be so that the correct acceptance test would be created. And the last one, there's an agile PM with all these use cases in the backlog with priority, nice to have. And then one guy said, which I think sums it up, this is why we can't have nice things. So I enjoyed that. I hope you did too. If you haven't seen that, I thought it was entertaining, and there's hundreds of them. It's really good. Now, one of the things I do with people when I interview people for the first time, I ask them to test a remote control, and I ask them how would they test it, and immediately they start thinking about all the ways they would test it. But things I ask them are: is there service connected to the TV? Are there batteries? Is the TV plugged into power? Is this controller for this specific TV? And so one of the things I ask people to do is don't just assume that I've given you a controller that works with that TV and has batteries and we have power and the TV works and the controller works. You have to ask those questions. Now, when I tell you to test everything, don't test every single thing. I was in Canada doing a keynote at a conference once there, and I saw this sign. It was big as the whole elevator. It said, jumping in the elevator would cause entrapment. And I did not try it. I did want to as a tester. I wanted to try it, but I did not, because 2 things. 1, I did not have time. I needed to get to my talk. And 2, I don't know what I would do if I got stuck in an elevator. And so I didn't try it. So don't test everything sometimes. Again, we talk about sharing your story. If you say, I don't have a lot to say and I don't have many things that I can share with the world, just write a blog about what you did today. Write about what you're learning each day. Somebody out there cares, and somebody out there wants to hear about your story. You'll be amazed at how many discussions you'll have just by talking about what you did today if you don't have a specific topic. Again, if we were together, I would ask you, do you have a mentor? Get everybody to raise their hands. Of the 267 people that I interviewed and surveyed, 243 of those people said they didn't have a mentor. And what I say to you is you really should have a mentor, and everyone needs one. And I'm not talking about one you have to pay for. There's some good ones that you pay for. I'm talking about finding someone who you trust and you believe in, that you know that's learned a lot and you could learn from, and asking them, would they mentor you? I've found a lot of people come to me. I've gone to a lot of people. And the big thing here is you don't have to pick just one. It can be multiple people, and it can be one for different aspects of your life. So the other thing I would say is, as you get better and you grow more, help other people. Because if you want to see growth in your career, help somebody else grow in theirs. Because you'll find, and I've always found, that when I mentor people, I learn just as much as they're learning from me by working with them. So get out there and give back. Now we're almost done here, and I hope you're getting some new ideas, and I hope you've learned some good things and how to grow. And you may go to work tomorrow or get online tomorrow if you're locked down and fired up with these ideas. And someone's going to say, that's great. Glad you had fun at the conference, but let's get back to work. Now, this says your love makes me strong, your hate makes me unstoppable. Now, I think hate is a harsh word, but let the negativity drive you. If your organization doesn't understand the value of testing, keep showing them what you're doing. Show them in different ways. There's multiple ways to show the value of testing without showing the numbers, showing the statistics, and showing metrics. It's showing what you can give back to the organization. As we close it and we get close to the end here, I want to say, what is your 10-year plan? What is your 10-month plan? What is your 10-day plan? I saw a great post this morning that said, did you think about the people in 2015 when they got asked, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Nobody got that question right. The lockdown, the COVID, the virus has changed everything, but you can still take a long, hard look at what you're doing. And you can line up your goals with what you're doing every day. Make sure you're doing that. And don't forget that people know you for what you've done, not for what you plan to do. I started talking about writing a book 17 years ago. Took me a long time to get it done. But every year I did a little bit to it, and I added a little to it every year. So put it into action. Look at what you can do. Take ideas from your team and give them back to others. Now I'm running out of time, and I'm sorry, Joel. But practice, practice, practice. We know that's how you get to Carnegie Hall. Think outside the requirements. Don't do it because everybody's doing it this way. Get social. Get out there and communicate with people. Study the writings. Test everything. Become known for that. Tell your story. Remember that blogs are a great way to connect with people. Influence the community around you. And last but not least, get a mentor. Find somebody that you can learn from, and then find people that you can teach as well. And don't forget, you have the potential to be remembered for all the things that you're doing today and tomorrow and onward. You don't have to be Sheryl Sandberg, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg to make a difference. You can change the world right where you are today, doing exactly what you're doing. But what are you doing to be great? Thank you so much. And I really enjoyed being here with each of you. And I hope you reach out to me. If you have questions, I'm here to take them, Joel.
Cool, Mike. Excellent session. I really like the teachings, and I like the fact that many of them are stuff that people can actually start doing tomorrow. And you don't need right now to go and, I don't know, start learning SOAP UI for 3 months before you actually get something done out of it. And there are some questions here that actually draw my attention. One of them actually came, and I think it's a good one because I've heard it a couple times before. Actually, it was the Slack channel. Let me bring it up. Fernando's actually asking, he says, I'm trying to start a career as a tester, and I'm a little old. And he then writes, but hey, I got a real cool mentor, my wife, and I do believe my wife is my mentor, and I love that as well. But what do you recommend to someone who's telling you, hey, you know what, I want to become a tester, but I'm a little old in order to get into that? What do you tell them?
I would say you're never too old. In fact, I love all ages, and I especially love people who are starting in testing as much as I do people who've been in it for years. I've worked with people who have been doing testing for many, many years, and you got things you have to change. You know, we learn good habits and bad habits through our years. I've been doing this for 26 years, so I've got my own bad habits. But what I say to people is look at, the advice here about studying what people are doing. I've learned so many things I will say I learned more at conferences and events and in this testing community than I ever learned in college, that I ever learned even on the job. I learned a lot of things from the people that I've talked to. And my perception of testing in 2008, when I started testing and got out of development, is totally different now than what it was back then. You know, so I think it's be open and flexible, and whoever that is, you know, definitely reach out to me. I'll be happy to share with you even more things that I do, and really new and creative ways to think outside the box other than just a traditional testing that we've done for many, many years.
Excellent. By the way, I just remember, I think that the guy that you were trying to remember, his name is Ronald Cummings.
Yes, Ronald Cummings. Yes.
He has a great book.
He sent me a book and I've got to read it because I'm excited about it. The Leadership of Quality is awesome.
Yeah, he actually was in the OTC, I think about a year ago or maybe a year and a half ago. No, he's obviously a great speaker, but his book is really, really interesting. Okay, there's also a question here about someone who says, hi, Mike, I agree with you, say that the experience on the various projects is what make us grow. But when we analyze job ads, we're immediately eliminated if we have no experience in technology A or technology B. How do you get around this situation?
Oh, it's such a great question. Oh, man, I love that question. So the first thing to do is get that interview, you know, and it's hard because a lot of companies, maybe, mine is not one, because when I look at QA resumes, I look at what do they do and what have they learned along the way. And when I interview someone, I don't care as much about their skills as I do how they think about testing and how they think about real life situations. So a quick thought there on the side is I ask a lot of questions around the theory and what people do in a certain situation and how you handle this situation in testing, because I can teach you the technical side. My team can teach you the technical skills. But if you come with the technical skills and you don't know how to be a thinking tester and you don't know how to think outside the typical box, then I think that's the struggle. So I would say that, you know, the days of just being a functional tester and just learning the requirements and not knowing anything about the development and the technical side, those are, you're not necessarily going to be out of a job by not having it, but definitely hone up those skills and try to stay up to date. I look at development now. I developed back in the 90s and the early 2000s, and it's nothing like it is today. I couldn't develop today if I wanted to be a developer, but, you know, keep learning the skills and look at what people are doing and really stay up to date, but do everything you can to get yourself in the door, have a good cover letter, and talk to the right people to get yourself in the door. And if I can help you with a resume, send me a note. I'll be glad to look at it and tell you what I would see in it as well.
People, I'm not sure if you're listening to this, but you're getting basically a free invitation by Mr. Mike Lyles to be mentored and help. So you need to use that. Last thing that I'm going to say, and I totally agree with you, when you mentioned even at the very beginning of your session where you're saying, hey, people with different backgrounds, and you're saying, hey, if you have a psychology background, it will help you with testing. In my experience, some of the best testers that I've worked with came from such a different areas. I mean, they were not technical at all, and it only helps. It only helps. So I really like that one. Mike, as always, it's been a pleasure having you here. I really appreciate the time you took and the session. Great session, really full of pretty good advice. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye,
Thanks,
Mike.
everyone. Take care.
Bye, and thanks.